Welcome to the Aviation Insurance Podcast, the podcast that helps aircraft owners and aviation businesses learn and understand the complex world of aviation insurance and risk management. From the basic principles of aviation insurance to risk management techniques and updates on the aviation insurance market, the Aviation Insurance Podcast is your guide to traverse the world of aviation insurance. Now, here's your host, Tim Bonnell.
Well, welcome back to the Aviation Insurance Podcast, where we talk about the fundamentals of aviation insurance. And we've looked at a lot of different factors about aviation insurance. And in the last episode, I kind of started a short little series here on aviation insurance issues related to pilots. And in the last episode, we talked about pilots transitioning or going up in the performance and value of the aircraft they're operating. And today, I'm going to touch on an issue that's a little more controversial, and that is insurance and insuring senior airmen, pilots as they age. It's no secret that there have been challenges with senior airmen and insurance companies in the terms that have been said, especially as the aviation insurance market has hardened in the last 3 or 4 years. This is a hot topic and one that I'm not taking sides. The purpose of this episode is it's just to present some general thoughts and topics, not to take a side, not to take a position, not to justify anyone, to provide some thoughts that brings the issue to the forefront of the mind and looks at it from a holistic perspective of everyone involved. So I will even have a few suggestions as to what senior airmen can do as they age to continue to put themselves in a best position to remain insured. So because of it, disclaimer, this discussion doesn't take sides. It doesn't advocate for any specific party, doesn't provide finite answers, just the thoughts and considerations regarding senior airmen and the insurance industry. And I think with that in mind, we have to start and say that we have to acknowledge that many pilots that are 65 and older have great experience in aircraft. Many of them are safer pilots, more knowledgeable, and operate aircraft in a much stronger way than someone who's under 65 with less experience. That's just a fact of the matter. They also have a lot of great information they can share and pass down to pilots and younger aviators. So it's unfortunate to say that just because a pilot is older, that he's not a great risk to insure. That's not true. And insurance companies know this, I believe. Again, I am an aviation insurance broker, so I don't work directly for an insurance company. I bring the insurance company that's appropriate to the risk and the aviation insurance buyer together. So my thoughts are general and not applicable to any one carrier. So that said, some people have accused insurance companies of predatory tactics or discrimination for how they rate and write older pilots. They offer more restrictions. However, the fact of the matter is that an insurance company is a business designed to make a profit. An insurance policy is a one-year contract that is an agreement between the insurance company and the insurance buyer that the insurance company will take on the risk from the insurance buyer for a premium, the risks that are agreed to and outlined in the insurance policy. That's a one-year contract. Because they're assuming risk, this is something they can choose to do or not. It's not a government program where discrimination is in play. So again, I'm not here to defend any position or party, but that is a consideration that must be kept in mind. It's just the hard fact of the matter. Next, these insurance companies have reinsurers that they work with because of the values and limits and all that's involved with aircraft and aviation. Insurers will take the amount of insurance they write and they will cede a portion or amount to a reinsurer. So it's insurance for the insurance companies. That reinsurance comes with an expense, and it also comes with a set of underwriting guidelines. Those underwriters not only have their own information, but they have to comply with the terms of the reinsurance companies. So the reinsurance companies reinsure everyone. And they're bringing their information, their loss records into the picture as they evaluate whether or not they're going to write a risk. The decisions insurance carriers make on what they will and won't write depend on a number of factors, but largely it's based on the capabilities they have in these underwriting guidelines, but it's based on actuarial data, mathematical and statistical information based on losses and pilot experience, aircraft age, pilot age, the type of loss, there's a lot of math that goes into informing insurance carriers of specific type of risks. And unfortunately, when there are generalities like this in categories, a lot of general decisions have to be made. Insurance companies do understand that all people are unique. People age differently. People have different intellect, health, processing speeds, regardless of age. But given the number of pilots involved in aviation, insurance companies are forced to weigh some decisions based on generalities. To personally interview every single pilot out there by an underwriter is basically next to impossible. And if it were, they'd have to, tenfold increase their staffs and tenfold increase insurance premiums. So that's why there's these generalities involved, and most of it's based on the loss information they have available to them. And then one of the other points about insurance companies I want to highlight is that the scrutiny for underwriters is very high. These reinsurers scrutinize the risks they're writing, and so in turn, the scrutiny that insurance underwriters apply to pilots, they're based on generalities, but they increase the higher the hull value, the larger the liability limits, the greater the performance capabilities of the aircraft. We talked about this with pilot transition. And so the same concept applies to an aging pilot. As they hit 65, they're going to be looked at, more stringently in a high value jet than they are in a low value Cessna 172. So that scrutiny and these principles increase based on the performance capabilities of the aircraft. The higher the value, the higher the limit. So all these factors in mind, there aren't a lot of hard and fast rules regarding pilots as they hit ages above their mid-60s. Plenty are flying and insured into their 70s and even 80s and beyond. So it just depends on all these various factors. And again, carriers all have different risk appetites. We talked about that in the pilot transition. Some carriers are better with aging airmen. But as a pilot reaches his mid-60s point and beyond, what are some things in general that they can do as a best practice to keep flying with insurance coverage as long as possible? And here's a few things that we've noticed over the years, and certainly in this season. A few strategies will help improve that situation. No guarantees, but definitely will improve it. And number one is just continue to train frequently in your aircraft. Providing your aircraft training information to your broker and underwriter is important. And training more often, every 6 months, whatever it might be, will improve that situation. Continue to get regular airman medicals. The faster and higher performance of the aircraft, the higher and more frequent that should be. For jets, a first-class medical every 6 months would be very beneficial to keeping yourself insured, and or in some cases, it's being required. So keeping that medical up to date is important. I always encourage insureds to highlight any additional medical, health, or fitness activities or awards that they do that would help emphasize the state of their good physical health and their good physical attributes to their broker and underwriter. I've even had, some of our customers send pictures of them, looking youthful, skiing, all those kind of things. It doesn't change the underwriter's underwriting guidelines, but it helps provide that best picture of the risk to the insurance underwriter. And then one thing that is just, typically a good idea in most situations is, as a pilot ages, it's best to find an insurance company that they work well with, have a relationship with, and stick with them for that duration as long as it's possible. When a pilot has a relationship and a positive track record with an insurance carrier, they're more likely to get favorable terms and to be insurable for the longest possible time. So these are just a few tactics that pilots can use as they age to keep insurable as a pilot. In this day and age, there's certainly, always is a certain point in time where most carriers will begin to reduce liability limits operated. At some point, they may require the pilot to fly accompanied with another pilot, another qualified pilot at all times. And, there's been a few situations, if we're fortunate to live so long that they, if it's a high enough hull value and performance, some of the carriers will even exclude a pilot from coverage. Generally, that takes a while, and that's not seen so often, but it's possible. It's just a factor, again, as we age as pilots. And I'm certainly in that position and will continue to grow in that position as well. So again, when this might depends. There's no hard and fast age. Certainly 65, every year beyond 65, those opportunities increase depending on all the factors we've discussed. But it all depends on the company, the insurance company, the aircraft, the pilot, and obviously the conditions of the aviation insurance market. So that's a hot topic. That's just some generalities. Certainly I'm all for experienced pilots. I'm all for understanding the factors that the insurance company must deal with. It's a challenging situation. The best thing to do is work together to communicate and give the insurance companies as much ammunition they can to continue to extend their insurance coverage to pilots. So that's all for this week. Join us again next time as we continue navigating the waypoints of aviation insurance. Until then, enjoy clear skies and unlimited visibility.
Thanks for listening to the Aviation Insurance Podcast. If you found this episode of value, please share it with someone who would benefit from this information. Don't forget to subscribe in your podcast player so you don't miss any new episodes and to help our show have more impact. This episode is brought to you by Aeris Insurance Solutions, your flight plan for navigating the turbulence of aviation insurance. For more information, visit airisinsurance.com. That is www.aerisinsurance.com. Disclaimer. These episodes are for educational purposes only, and due to the changing regulatory and legal nature of the business, some information may change over time. Having a well-educated and experienced aviation insurance broker on your team is an absolute requirement to success in business and for managing your aircraft and aviation business risks.